So welcome onto the podcast, Gary. How are you?
Doing absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Craig.
Good. Glad to hear it. Didn't think I'd hear any otherwise, but yeah, glad to hear you are brilliant. And thanks ever so much for coming onto the podcast. Can't wait to get to know you a lot more about your background and also as well all about Octane and what the future looks like for that really. So and what I really enjoy is we've had a few conversations before. I've got a little bit of an insight into Octane, but really never explored you and your background, more about your personality and stuff like that, and your values and stuff like that, which is always it's always good because I don't come onto this podcast with any preconceived ideas. And as well, we talked about before the podcast, this is the first time you've been on a podcast.
It is indeed my very first one. Hopefully, won't be the last.
I'm sure it won't be the last. Don't worry about that, mate. And we'll normally what happens is once you start to do a tour, so you'll get onto one podcast, and then people see how amazing you are and how interesting you are, and then you go on to another one and then another one, and lo and behold, you'll be doing the tour of the UK soon, mate. From a podcast point of view.
The world is your oyster.
Exactly. Certainly is, mate. So first of all, for those people that don't know Gary Stewart, do you want to sort of give us a background in your journey into financial services, up to date, really?
Yeah, sure. It's quite a diverse background, really. I think probably like most financial people, I never intended to go into financial services when I very first started out. My background actually is in mechanical engineering. I started out in college in that very many young years and learned very quickly it wasn't for me really in terms of the manual labor side of things, and ended up working for oil and gas company doing charter planes, vessels, freight logistics for an oil and gas company. And because I was managing charter vessels and doing negotiating and numbers all the time, one of my friends was actually a recruitment headhunter, said that I've got a position for you that can be really, really great. I was like, oh yeah, go on then, what is it? He went, it's a financial advisor. And I went, you do realize I'm in oil and gas? I said, what have I got to do with financial services? And he went, no, you love working with numbers and you love helping people. And I was like, yeah, okay, I see that. And he said, no, you'd be really, really good at this. And I think the tipping point for me was when, I started getting told off for having, 65 minutes for my lunch break and, coming in at 9:05 in the morning instead of 9. But, that's despite the fact that I was working until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I just thought this was ridiculous, and it's just a job at the end of the day. It's just a job. So I thought, well, financial services, that's going to give me the access to what I want is, which is the financial and time freedom, really. So that started off my journey in there, and started off, CMAP 1, 2, and 3, trained myself, went into a practice, and literally after 2 years of being in this practice of just me and one other advisor, I saw the practice principal going to America sort of 2, 3 times a year, and for 1 month at a time. And I thought, I wonder whose commission is funding those trips to America. And I didn't realize like what the percentages were out there for other brokers that they were getting, and I was only on 30%, and I thought that was great at the time. And then I
Right.
realized what you could get as a self-employed broker with other places, and I was like, hang on a second. So literally after 2 years, it still puzzles me to the day how I got this, but literally after 2 years, I went and applied for directly authorized, and I got it, much to my surprise now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's my reflection looking back on that now. I have absolutely no idea how I got DA after only 2 years in the industry, but I did. Must have been doing something right.
Exactly.
And yeah, that
So,
took me into financial services, and then kind of never left it really. Been in it for 10 years now. February just gone.
right. Wow. So I think that it's interesting you say that because you're right. Generally, people do fall into financial services. We all do. It's just not right. But then for you, it's something that you've sort of given, like you say, 10 years. So you're in financial services. It's good going. Clearly, you built a career up out of that. You've enjoyed being. We all learn, mate. Like the thing is, we in terms of commission splits and things like that, there's so many people, so many differentials out there with regards to commission. So you won't be the first, you won't be the last that will learn and understand the commission splits a little bit more. But yeah, you've done like a good stint in financial services of 10 years. But what was you sort of thinking at the time? Because you obviously did your CMAP and then have you what was your sort of head at really when you first started being a financial advisor?
I think for me, the kind of real interest was that I've always had a real good interest in property, and I knew that working in the job that I was in for the oil and gas company on a salary, I would never be able to achieve my property portfolio dream doing that. It just wasn't going to give me the revenue that I needed to, afford the deposits, etc., for buy-to-lets. So I always knew I wanted to do something with property. I just didn't know how to go about it. So it was almost like a light bulb moment that plus that is going to equal me starting to go into property. Plus, as well, you can literally make people's dreams come true and helping them afford mortgages where their bank says, no, you can't have this mortgage, and you go to a broker and they can facilitate the whole entire market. So that really kind of played to my values of being able to help people, but also as well, kind of selfishly, it helped me with my dream and my goal to have a property portfolio as well.
Was that always the case? Was that always the dream and goal to have your property portfolio? Was that something you always wanted?
I think so, yeah. I mean, even when I was like, God, I think I was maybe 12 or 13 when I first started watching Homes Under the Hammer, which is still a thing now. I actually created a ring binder folder of all the episodes and like had slots of paper. I knew I wanted to do it, and I told my parents I was going to have be a property mogul by 20, and they were like, maybe just calm down on that idea a little bit by 20. So I've always loved property development. I just never knew how my route to market was going to be to do that.
Right. I think you've got to have an interest in property, being working within mortgage services, financial services. You've got to have that interest there, because that's really the end goal, isn't it, for your clients and what they're. You've got to share those dreams and passions. If you're not interested, if you're not nosy, if you don't care about what their goals are, then it's just really, you'll be found out by the client and really just be more of a, yeah, you might have short-term wins, but you want to build long-term relationships with those clients, because you're not interested in what they're trying to achieve. And I'm guessing that's the clients you had, you sharing those dreams and passions for property, homes. To be fair, Gary, I think Homes Under the Hammer has been around a long time, but I never, the first person I've spoken to which had a actual ring binder about the properties on there. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, property geek, we'll call it that much. But yeah, you're
And
absolutely right though. You need to align your values the same with the client. If you can resonate with them of what they're trying to achieve. And I absolutely love it, and I still to this day love it when you have a client come to you and they say, oh, we're looking to upsize our house and we want to go and buy this house. And you say, well, hang on a second, have you actually thought about doing a let to buy so that you can retain your existing property, turn it into an investment vehicle for yourself, and still purchase another property? And every time I do that, they go, oh, you can do that? That's amazing. And it gives you that sense of enjoyment and fulfillment that, you're helping somebody else start a property portfolio or an investment or a dream as well.
exactly, I think the beauty of that is that if that client went straight to the bank, they wouldn't be talking about those sorts of things. It's only mortgage brokers that will be talking about what their long-term aspirations are from a client. So if you went to a high street lender or direct to that lender and sort of said, you walk away with 3 hours of your life lost with your AIP, and just really order taking from what you wanted out of that meeting and what they want out of that meeting. Whereas people don't realize that. And if that's something that can open people's eyes to, that's something that you can do, then what a great position to be in. And like you say, again, it's just the long-term relationship you'll have with that client.
Massively.
Excellent. So we're going to talk about Octane, and we'll get into a lot more detail about that. Are you still mortgage advising, still doing your financial advising now while you're running Octane, which we're going to talk about?
Yes, still actively doing mortgage brokering. Not so much in the driving seat now. I'll say that. We'll get onto that in a second in terms of like how Octane is kind of like taking the driving seat position now. But imagine over 10 years, I still have quite a large client bank that still come towards me. So it's a bit of a kind of a joke in the office that I'm more of like the fluffer when it comes to things. I'll talk to the client, I'll go through the initial sort of fact find, the refresh, etc. We'll talk about the proposed plan of what they're going to do moving forward. And then once they're ready to transact, then I'll put it over to one of our advisors in our team and say, right, can you look after this client? This is what they're looking to do, but I'll still be the point of contact for the client as well.
Which is, you are, to be fair, Gary, I know this is your first podcast, but you are the first fluffer I've ever interviewed before. So
I can call a lot of things in my life, but
I think there is quite a lot of people out there that do that are more of the face-to-face from a business point of view and a mortgage broking point of view that then hand over to an administrator, power planner, or somebody else to do the mortgage broking. So you're not unique from your fluffer position. But I never saw that on your LinkedIn profile about job role of fluffer, but we'll come on to that in a second.
I don't think you can select it. Might have to
No,
put
I
a request into LinkedIn for that.
Yeah, I don't think I've never seen the drop down, especially if you're mortgage broking. Can you imagine going through your fact find of your drop down and sort of saying what's your job title, fluffer? Yeah, I don't think you've got any that and your protection as well. You're going to get nowhere with that. Anyway, so let's talk about Octane. Do you want to just give before we get into detail of exactly? Do you want to give a sort of brief overview of how Octane came about, and then we'll talk about the what's, where's, and the whys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk about like in a second, like what it is in terms of the product, but it was never built on the premise of just to create a secondary company and just to have another service alongside what we do currently. The reason it was birthed is more so from a client's perspective, because as mortgage brokers, we'll sit down with a client and we'll review their mortgage, we'll review their life insurance, their buildings and contents, private medical, income protection, say for example. That's fantastic. And then when you do the mortgage planning, that's, put aside, we've done that, get to the protection planning stage of things. And, a client will take life insurance off you day in, day out because it's cheap as chips. You talk about critical illness and it's a bit like, that's an expensive product, isn't it? A little bit. And then you get onto income protection. They're like, oh my God, that's absolutely extortionate. I'm not paying that. And then you have to kind of like bring them back down to earth a little bit. Say, well, come on, mate. You're a self-employed builder. What's going to happen to your family if, if you fall off that roof and, worst case scenario. And they're like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Or they say, the typical one is, I can't afford that. I'm not paying that. And then you'd look at their income and expenditure sheet from the mortgage and you think, oh, come on, mate. If you stop spending 200 quid a month on, Uber Eats and £100 a month on that gym membership that you don't use. And I can see that you're going to Greg's every other day and you're getting your breakfast. And I know that we've got the analogy of, like a coffee a day or buy your life insurance. But I mean, who really listens to that? But when you think about it, like, for example, I know this is not written in stone, but as brokers, when we review somebody's mortgage and let's say they're paying £1,000 a month and you go and put them onto a new 2-year fixed and it's 900, fantastic, they've saved £100 a month. And as brokers, commonly we'll say, that's great, you've saved £100 a month, but let's scrape that back and let's use it towards your income protection because you really need it. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yeah, all right, go on then. Because they don't miss what they never had in the first place. So we already apply that principle with the mortgage. So I thought to myself, well, hang on a second. This is a really great model that we do with the mortgage aspect. What else from this income and expenditure could we rearrange or move about to, help give more expenditure and more facility to buy other products and services? When I actually looked at it, if you combine together, energy, broadband, mobile, home insurance, boiler cover, those things collectively are the second largest outgoing of a property. So if we can reduce those costs down, effectively the savings that we make there, we can reallocate those savings over towards life insurance. And let's be honest, most people don't have any loyalty to their existing utility providers, do they? So they don't really care. And most clients that I spoke to, they were like, yeah, sure, if you can, reduce those costs down, it's no hassle for me, crack on and go and do it. So I started doing that and I got a really, really good reception from it because clients were like, yeah, sure, if it's, no hassle to me and you can move it about, then it's fantastic. So yeah, that's kind of the whole reason that it was started in the first place, was on a one-to-one basis. And then I thought, well, hang on a second, why aren't more mortgage brokers doing this? This is like a fantastic analogy. It's great for the client because they're getting reduced expenditure. They're getting more family planning protection. It's even better for the broker because they're getting a much more healthy suitability report out the back of it. And from a commercial perspective, they're earning more commission because they're doing more indemnity life insurance. So literally the only people that are losing in this situation is just the old utility providers, which again, nobody's got any loyalty to. So it was literally a win-win situation. So that's when I took it upon myself, thought, right, more brokers need to do this. This is bloody amazing.
But it is because, like I said, there's no loyalty with the utilities, and I think the clients, from a broker's point of view, it's another question and it's something else to talk about in terms of savings and stuff like that. But I think clients have no loyalty to an energy provider. They just don't. They want the cheap, especially now with the cost of everything rising and the utilities rising and people budgeting tighter than they've had before. So saving that money, absolutely, but there's no loyalty, and that's the thing with regards to spotting that as an opportunity, because there's going to be loyalty to you as a broker. There's going to be loyalty from that point of view, but from that side of things. But again, it still creates loyalty for you as a broker, because you're offering something that other brokers won't offer and won't see that as an opportunity. So, well, I think that, and then on the flip side of that, Gary, which knowing you a little bit more as I do, seeing that as an opportunity, like, yes, it's great to save the money from a utilities point of view. That's great, but let's use that budget, like use that spend, and rather than giving it to the previous utilities, let's use it wisely, because, like you say, it's all about getting the client. You've sat down with the client for an hour, 2 hours, gone through the fact find. Great, you've got them the mortgage. Great, you've got them the house. But then you need to make sure that it's protected as well. So let's use what the savings are that you wouldn't have thought about those anyway, and you're not going to miss those anyway. So let's use those for making sure that what we talk about, which is your choice to leave your home, not somebody else's. So, and that's the big thing with it.
Yeah, massively, massively.
So that's when was that sort of spark in your head in terms of, hang on a minute, this is so much more I can do with this than just working with doing it myself. What was the sort of spark with that? How long ago, and sort of moving things forward with that?
Yeah, so I started doing it with my own clients probably about 2018, and after doing it for about a year and a half, kind of like mid 2019, that's when I thought, this is fantastic. Like, my success rate is phenomenal. My protection sales are massively going up. My clients are much more happy, and I was like, why am I being selfish about this? More brokers need to do this. This is bloody great. So then, really giddily and excited, I started going telling more brokers about this, and then wasn't quite ready for the reception that I got, because they were like, hang on a second, Gary. So you want us to learn about gas, electric, phone line, broadband, mobile, home insurance, and boiler cover, pitch it to our clients, process the order, and then if there's any complications, you want us to deal with that as well. They were like, no. Love the idea, love the concept. It's just, we've got a billion things going on. I was like, oh, probably didn't think about that, did I? Because obviously, God, I mean, if we look at 2020, how busy brokers were, especially with a stamp duty holiday, you just couldn't ask them to do like one single thing, let alone all these extra bits. So I was like, so we've got a real disconnect here. So we've got something that's phenomenal for the customer, because they're getting reduced expenditure, more family plan and protection. It's great for the broker because they're able to sell more protection cover, and they've got much more healthy and suitability reports than before. So all we've got really is just a time management issue, essentially. And then when I really thought about it, I thought, well, hang on a second, because as brokers, we've got, for example, Mortgage Brain and 24/7 tech platform for the best mortgage. We've got Assure Web for the best life insurance as a platform. We've got Payment Shield as the best build and contents insurance as a platform. There's no platform that exists for brokers for utilities. And I thought, that's interesting. So I thought there's a real gap here as an opportunity. So I sat down with a team of software developers and platform builders, and I said, this is what I want. This is what I need it to do. As a broker, this is what I want it to do. And then from the other side of the table, I said, as a customer, it needs to be super, super simple and slick. So 2 years of development from kind of 2019 to the end of last year. We, tested it, beated things out, back and forth, etc. And then we beta tested with about 7 different mortgage broker firms at the end of Q4 last year in 2021. Went really well, made some tweaks and amendments with things that are not so great. The broker was like, oh, don't like that. and then we kind of finally fully launched it into January this year and started kind of taking it out to brokers and kind of shouting about it, really. But I think the real kind of like pinnacle point for brokers is that the only thing that's required from them is a 60-second client data entry. That's all they literally need to do, because it's got to be simple. Because if it's not simple, they're not going to do it.
They won't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So all they literally need to do is log into our platform, which is an online-based system, enter in the client's contact information, select if it's a new property or an existing property, hit create client. That's it. That's them off. And they can book the appointment for the client if they want to, or they can just leave it to the client's own devices. And then we handle the whole process behind the scenes from there afterwards.
Okay, so the broker at that stage that sounds very simple, Gary, which is great. 'Cause like you said, brokers want simplicity and easy things to refer. So I think you're giving them the option at that stage. So if I've got my client I'm sat here now going through whatever stage in the process, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I can make that appointment for my client in their diary, obviously, at that point, or I can just hand it over to you to liaise with the client to raise that appointment then.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you enter the client in, you do your 60-second client data entry, that's them in, bang. As soon as you hit create client, they get an instant. Please follow the link below to book your appointment and upload your bills if they have them.
Right, okay. Now that makes sense. It's like quite
Want
simple
to,
in terms of how it does.
yeah. And you could turn around and say, do you know what, Craig, I know what you're like as a client. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to book your appointment for you now. Because let's face it, some clients are inherently lazy and they won't do what you ask them to do. So either option one, you just enter the client in, leave it to their own devices, and they will get a 3-stage reminder sequence as well if they don't do anything. Or you can take control back and you can say, oh, do you know what? Let's just book your appointment right here, right now. We've got a little yellow button that you press and it pops up a window with the appointment calendar for our system. And you just can say, how's Thursday at 2 o'clock or Friday at 1 or Saturday at 6? And then you just book the appointment for the client and then that's it done. It's one thing less for them to do. So instead of a 60 seconds, 120 seconds. Again, it gives the flexibility for the broker.
But still simplicity from a broker's point of view. So I think that's the big thing, is like there's not really much traction and resistance there from their point of view. What does it look like from a client point of view then? One side, sort of say I go with the lazy option of, right, I'm just going to get you to book the appointment then, Gary. So I submit their details, 60-second, submitted the referral to you guys, to the team. What happens then from a client journey point of view? Because I'm guessing the reason why I'm asking is because obviously you're asking mortgage brokers to send you details of their clients, so they've got to have that trust of service and all those sorts of things. So it's just quite important from a broker's point of view to understand what that looks like.
Yeah, great question as well. So obviously I've had the client fully in mind when we built this as well. And we worked with a group of clients that we already had on board. And we said, how would you find this process in terms of the process that we had before? And we actually got them to kind of like tell us what they would like to see in a journey. Because what I wanted to be really clear on is we didn't want to be like your U-Switch and your Go Compare, where you literally just log on to a system and you're like, right, I'm looking at this screen. I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I think I just want fast broadband and I think I just want it cheap. And that's pretty much what your general public person will know. They don't know what megabytes per second mean. They don't know what kilowatts per hour mean. They just want it cheap and they want a good provider that's not going to collapse. So when the broker enters the client into our platform, the client will get an instant notification via text and email, welcome them to Octane. They click on the link. It then pops up on their internet browser on the phone with an appointment style system, a bit like booking a doctor's appointment, really. They pick a time and a date that works for them on one of the green date squares. As soon as they've selected the date that works for them, they get a notification that confirms the appointment for them as well. They will get a reminder sequence as well before the appointment. So they'll get a reminder via text and via email, just so that they know the appointment's coming up. And then they will also get a secondary option after they've booked the appointment to upload any bills. Now, we did make this optional to start off with. It was mandatory, and that fell very much flat on its face, as you can imagine. A bit like asking a client to come to your fact find with payslips and bank statements. It just didn't work. So we made the upload your bills optional because some people are really organized and they have everything to hand and they upload them. If they do, great. If they don't, not the end of the world. So for a client, all they need to do is click on the link, book an appointment, and upload any bills if they have them. And then from there, they just come onto the appointment on the time and date that's been booked for them. We'll go through the full review with them, and one of our team members, 10 minutes before the appointment as well, we also integrated a text message system into our platform as well, which we found to be a really, really helpful, beneficial tool, actually. So 10 minutes before the appointment, one of our team members will text the client through the platform and say, hey, just to let you know, your appointment's in 10 minutes. Look forward to speaking to you. And you'd be surprised the amount of clients actually reply back to that text, say, "Oh, I'm just nipping out the car. I'm just putting the kids in, or just 2 minutes away. Give me a second." It's a really good catchment tool, is that actually? So then we'll have the appointment with the client. We'll go through all of their services for them, and even though we do 7 different utilities, it's very much a pick and a mix basis. So every utility bundle will do, in essence, is bespoke to that person. So if they want to have just gas and electric, they can have that. If they want to have a gas, electric, energy, and mobile, they can have that. If they want to have just mobile, they can have that. But what we'll do is, as we go through the services, we'll say, right, you're paying X for your broadband, we can do it for Y. You're paying X for your energy, we can do it for Y. And then by the time we get to the end of the quote, we'll say, right, this is your total services, currently paying this, we can do it you for this. And they say, yeah, I'm happy with that. We'll give them the expectations, and then we'll process the order, and we'll handle all the switches, cancellations, and everything in the background, so that for the client, the only things that they literally have to do when they come off the call is change a broadband router when we send it to them and give us a gas and electric meter reading when we ask for it. Everything else, and I mean this, literally everything else in the background, we do for them. So all the changing, cancellation, the switching, closing down their previous accounts, we'll do all that for them. So they can just crack on with their everyday life, essentially. So as easy as it is for the broker, it's literally just as easy for the client. And I kid you not, all the clients are always like, I'm only going to do it if it's easy. We're like, trust me, it's very, very easy. And that's the way that we intended it. Something else probably really good to mention as well is that all of our appointments that we do with clients are very similar to this, actually. They're all video call appointments that we do with a client. And we've done it for the reason that we think it's very nice for the client to be able to see who they're speaking to and not just a call center person. So we're not fussed if the client doesn't come on the video. It's just so for them that they can see who they're speaking to. And it just makes it a little bit more personable for them as well. And because we do it as a live stream, they get to see the products and the services in real time as well as we're going through it. And it just makes the reception so much more nicer as well in the journey.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're going to build trust a lot more, right? You're going to get a rapport easily with the client, being able to see them. That's the thing with, like you said, with this is like I record the podcast, and when I first started doing it, it was just audio only, and there was no cameras. Whereas I just felt that there was just that certain detachment between when I'm talking to somebody and asking questions and things like that. I prefer to see them. You can gauge. Obviously, not from recording this podcast. I'm not gauging your reaction, Gary, but you can gauge your client's buying signals. You can gauge any questions they've got, or whether they're actually paying attention, whether they're actually just nodding away and agreeing and stuff like that. So it just builds the relationship so much more than just a phone call, or like you say, it's nothing compared to like anything that's such as U-Switch or whatever, which is literally just, it's not the same service level and the same process and the same client journey from that point of view, from what I've experienced in that. So, but it does seem quite painless, and the process from a client point of view does sound pretty straightforward, Gary, to be fair. So you've explained everything and given everybody clarity in terms of how it's going to work from a client point of view. What happens, like you say, you just needing certain things with regards to meter readings, and that. So at the end of the appointment, you need meter readings at a certain time. Obviously, there's a few of the bits that the client needs to do. But what happens then behind the scenes, which is what really people are interested in too?
Well, if people want to know the behind the scenes stuff, they're more than welcome to. It's not very glitzy and glammy, I'll tell you that.
No.
But no. So literally, as soon as a lot of it's automated. I'll be honest with you. To be honest, we will process the order straight away for the client, and as soon as we press submit on the application, by automation, it will ping off straight away to their existing suppliers as a request for takeover. So, for example, on the broadband, our order will ping straight off to their existing supplier as a line takeover request. And that usually takes around 2 weeks, for example. And then we'll agree a date with their existing supplier that we're going to take over the service. And then we keep the client updated on that. So when they download the app, they also get notifications via text and email as well to tell them when their services are going to be switching. But we'll communicate with their existing suppliers in the background and agree a dates with those guys. If there's any
Right.
complications, like for example, they might have a debit balance on their old energy account, then we'll just get objected to with the transfer. We'll pick that up with the existing supplier and just go back to the client and say, hey, just to let you know, we can't transfer the energy at the minute because there's a bit of an outstanding balance. Can you just clear that for us? They say, yep, it's done. And then we just jump back on. Quite simple.
Sorry, mate. I'm just going to make a note that I don't know what's happened. Sorry, mate. Just hang on a second. I don't know what's happened to my camera there.
Killed it.
I know, yeah, it has. I think it's probably the heat and I'm just taking myself out. I'm going to make a note of the time on that. So I don't know, the camera's just sort of died on the. It's I can sort of see it fine, but then it's for some reason on the actual.
Is it overheated?
I think it might have actually. I think it's something to do with the.
Hot podcast session.
Yeah. And I'm back in, and hopefully, like, it's having a meltdown. Oh, mate, you what? Like, honest to the.
Oh. Don't know if you can still hear me, Craig. But
Yeah, I can hear you.
hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go.
Can you not hear? Going to say you should still be able to. Yeah, you should still be able to.
Yeah, your audio
hear me.
disappeared for a little bit.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
you're back now.
Sorry, mate. Yeah. I don't know what happened then. Like I said, the camera just had a meltdown and just decided to close off. But yeah,
Right.
so I did hear it. So I'll just make a note in terms of time on that. So yeah. So sorry about that. I don't know what. So we were just talking about the sort of. See, it's a good job these are edited, mate. So it's like they don't go out live. That's the bit of it. But honestly, today my day that is just typical of what's happened with me IT today and stuff like that. So don't worry. I'm just playing it cool. So I'll just go straight back into. I think we got the idea in terms of from a process, from a client point of view, understanding behind the scenes. That pretty much a switch point of view. So I'm just going to go. I'm going to edit this bit out. By the way, mate, are you all right so far? Is everything going all right from your point of view? Yeah,
Easy breezy for me.
cool,
I'm good for this.
good. So I'm getting now from a client point of view that from a broker point of view, it's pretty seamless. From a client point of view, it's pretty seamless. So like their work really my probably next part of the process was then for me to understand, because it's something you talked about at the beginning, is when does the handover go back from a client point of view to a broker? Because obviously if you're saving my client £50 a month and I want to use that as my budget for my income protection, what how quickly does that happen then, Gary, to hand back to the broker?
Yeah, great question. So as soon as we've signed up the client, within 24 hours, we will send an email to the broker, to the originator, saying, hey, congratulations, your client has signed up for X bundle and they've saved £759 for the year. So that's kind of the broker's pot of money in the sky for when he comes to his protection planning, and the client's like, oh, I'd love that income protection at £50 a month. And then the broker can go, hang on, you've just saved yourself, £80 a month in utilities. How about we steal that money from there and use that? And they'll probably go, yeah, okay, cool, happy with that. So as soon as we've done the transaction with the utilities, we will notify the broker kind of straight away, say, hey, here's your pot of money, because they need to know that as soon as possible, really, to kind of like fulfill my whole kind of model and purpose.
I think, which is then that gives the broker then impetus to get straight onto the client. So that's what you don't want. You don't want a big gap between you saving the client £80 and then sitting on that for 2 weeks thinking, oh, that's great, I'm saving £80, saving £80. Whereas if you've got your handover, which is again seems seamless, back to the broker, 24 hours, right? We've saved this client £80. Crack on with your. What part of the process are you getting involved with the referrals? I think that's a bit to understand as well, because is it like on completion? Is it post completion, or what part in the process are you finding that brokers are referring their clients to you?
Yeah, we'll always say that the best stage to introduce this is definitely your fact find stage, because if you're going through your initial kind of fact find stage, and this probably ropes in, you've probably quite nicely brought in another benefit actually that really has only become apparent in the past few months. So when you're going through income and expenditure on your original fact finding session, I always just make it sound like a kind of throwaway comment. You talk about how much you're paying for your rent, this, that, and the other, and say, oh, well, your gas and electric, how much you're paying for that. And I always just go, ooh, that's really expensive, that your gas and electric, isn't it? And of course, what's the client going to do? They're going to agree with you, aren't they? They go, oh, yeah, it's really expensive. They say, oh, don't worry about that. We're partnered with Octane. They'll help bring those bills right down for you. And they go, oh, great. So you've got your buy-in there straight away at the fact find stage. So if you hook that client straight over into Octane at fact find stage or just after, by the time you're doing your kind of your mortgage brain research, etc., we'll have done the utility review and we'll have come back to the broker, say, right, here you go, here's your savings you can use, before they even got to the protection planning stage. So they can rope it in all nicely. Now, the reason that I said that there's kind of another dual benefit that's just recently come about, I'm not sure if you've kind of heard about this or seen it yet, but cost of living crisis is now actually affecting mortgage affordability, and especially for first-time buyers. So we have currently in place the stress test, as it's called, for mortgage interest rates. If you're currently getting a deal for 2%, we're going to stress test your affordability on 5, 6, 7%, for example. They are applying the same model now with a cost of living crisis as well. So they're saying, if your energy bills are £150 today, we're going to stress test your mortgage affordability on a £300-400 utility bill, which seems a little bit crazy, but it's actually quite possible in the current climate at the moment. So all those lovely first-time buyers that are coming forward saying, I want to get the biggest mortgage possible. Well, if your utility bills are sky high, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So, we're seeing it being affected. So HSBC have adopted this principle already. And in some instances, we've seen their mortgage loan affordability reduced by £10,000 or £15,000, which for some people will be the difference between an average house and the dream house, for example. So not only is it reducing a client's expenditure and giving them more, protection affordability, it's also maximizing their opportunity on mortgage loan affordability as well.
I think what is sort of, like I said, that is scary time from a first-time buyer, from starting out on the property ladder, wanting to get the first home and the journey. So are you helping, so you're able to review both people that are already looking at remortgaging from a client point of view, so remortgaging, moving home, and first-time buyers? So really, you can help anybody with in any part of the journey that they're on, whether they're new to the property world or an experienced home mover.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've got, again, another two dual benefits there as well. So say, for example, you send across to us a first-time buyer or a home mover, for example, we can speak to that client straight away and we can pre-submit orders for utilities up to 30 days in advance. So by doing that, if
Right.
somebody's moving into their house in next month, for example, we can pre-submit the broadband, meaning that we can pretty much align the week that they move in for the engineer to come out to install the broadband, which for a lot of people these days, they don't even think about that. They move into the house and they're like, oh no, the broadband. And then it's, 4-6 weeks they've got to wait for that. So again, it's just another little stress and headache removed from them. So that's great for home movers and first time buyers, but as well for, your existing remortgage clients as well, the ones that are in properties already. We also pay up to £200 towards exit fees and cancellation charges. So even if they're, mid-term contracts on a broadband or they're in an energy deal, we can buy them out with those. It's quite simple as well. So we try and take on as many of their services as possible to give them the biggest possible bundle and savings.
And I think from a broker's point of view as well, like you talked about it at the beginning, and so if you look at how many clients you have, you've got 300 clients you talked about, 500 clients you talked about at the beginning. They don't have to be home moving, do they? They don't have to be first time buyers. They don't have to be doing anything at all. So what a great way to reach out and I'm looking at it from a retention point of view, Gary. I think that's the thing, is like, if I can then an excuse to contact my client bank, and an excuse to save the money. Those people that moved in 6 months ago, a year ago, didn't take protection at the time, can look at those people maybe on a 5-year deal, 5-year fix. Well, oh, what a great, I can actually reach out to these people. Let's look at, we're working with Octane now. This is something we do. This is this is the process. This is how it works. And then it then gives you, again, the completed sales that happened a year ago, 2 years ago, trying to revisit them to then get the cover in place with protection as well. So, and as well, it gives you that opportunity just to have a chat with the client, and you've been a year now in the house, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And then you just drop in about, let me talk about a service that we now offer, and we're working with Octane. And again, it's just looking at every single opportunity they have to refer my clients or a broker's clients to you.
Yeah, you've really hit the nail on the head there. So it is literally a re-engagement tool as well. So, those 5-year fix that you did, thinking, oh, what on earth am I going to phone them about? I've done a 5-year fix for them now. So it's an opportunity. I know obviously there's a protection side of it. You're not supposed to review protection every single year, obviously. But, it's, again, like you just said, it's something that you can go back to them and say, look, actually, we've now got something else that we can help you with. And then, subsequently, this might allow them to afford that income protection policy that you weren't able to facilitate last time because there wasn't the affordability there. And I guess you've got the flip side as well that, you potentially you might be getting, or a brokerage might be getting quite a lot of cancellations on direct debits for life insurance because they're having to choose between, heating their home or, which direct debits do we cancel to combat the cost of living crisis. I'll give you a really good example, and this is probably one of the worst ones that we've had. It was actually one of my friends. He was paying £123 a month in his fixed rate on his energy, and it expired in February. He then jumped out of that, out the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, and went straight up to 187. And then from April, he then went up to 284 on a variable with the price cap rise. And with the predicted price rise that's coming in October, which is currently 30 to 40% prediction, he will go to 431. So going from £123 a month to 431 in less than 6 months, well, just over 6 months, it's colossal. It's colossal.
It is. It is. When you put those numbers down there, you think it is colossal. And there's not, that's happening to your friend. Look how many millions of people that's happening to everybody around the country.
And the problem is, the bigger your house, the more magnified the problem is as well. If you think about these kind of like older generations, the one that have got like the bigger homes, etc., that are really expensive to heat, they're in the thousands, those energy bills. They really are. And it's a really difficult conversation for us a lot of times, because sometimes, we'll have someone say, how the hell am I supposed to afford that? I cannot afford that. It's really difficult because it's really difficult to say, I don't know what to answer from a compassionate point of view, apart from, giving them energy saving tips. But it literally is a cost of living crisis that people are choosing between heating or eating at the moment. So, from a compassionate point of view, we're really, really trying to help clients drill down those costs.
And it's a good, nice sort of intro into, because that was one of my next questions was, from a client's point of view, what does this cost them for them to sit down with you and look for them to save some money per month? What's the cost to the client?
Yeah, so great question. So there's actually no cost for the client at all. This is completely down to the brokerage to take this on as a service through the platform. Again, we wanted to make this accessible for everyone and try and help as many people as possible as well. So in doing that, the only value that we actually put on this from the client's perspective is actually just time. Because we do 7 different services, we say, effectively it's worth 7 hours of your personal time between searching for a new deal, cancelling, switching, changing. So it's down to a client what monetary value would they put on 7 hours of their own personal time. But yeah, in terms of actual money, there's no charge for them.
Okay, which is good to hear. Like I say, that's what we want to be giving some budget back to them for you to be able to talk about the protection and the rest of it. Just one thing which I know we'll have in certain brokers, and I've probably asked this question before, and I'm dropping this question on you, Gary, with regards to, because you are a mortgage broker, you own a mortgage broker business, client data, things like that, with regards to the two firms. That'll be one of the things that I know you'll have been asked in the past, and plenty of brokers will have that in their mind, thinking, oh, that's all really good, but then I'm going to send Gary all my clients, give him the data. Well, he's going to know everything about this person. So how is client data protected?
Great question. And it's almost 100% of brokers actually ask me that question. They're like, well, hang on a second. Aren't you a broker as well? I'm like, yes, I am a broker, but I'm not going to steal your clients. So even though our service is designed for mortgage brokers, estate agents, and housing developers, for the mortgage brokers, we actually have a separate side agreement that they get to sign as well, that basically stipulates that we do not interact with their own clients on any mortgage. So in Octane team, I'm actually the only person with a mortgage qualification. So we will only service the client for utilities through Octane. We will not talk to them about mortgages. And actually, that's probably a really good point actually as well. Octane's service actually generates referrals for mortgages. We've had this happen quite a few times. And the reason that happens is, let's say, for example, you introduce a client to us and they say, oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to tell my mum and dad about this. They need to save some money bills. I'm going to tell my brother and sister about it. And they do. And they refer us over. We help those guys out. And because they know that that family or friend member has just sorted out their mortgage, they're like, oh, we need to sort our mortgage out as well. Like, can you help us out with that? And we'll go, yes, what we're going to do is we're going to refer you back to the original brokerage that actually helped out your friend or family member. And we actually send referrals back to the original broker saying, hey, by the way, just to let you know, your originating client has referred someone for a mortgage. Here's the name and contact number. Can you get in contact with them? Here's a mortgage deal for you. It does actually generate referrals that can then be flipped around into mortgage transactions, because, it might happen the other way where You refer a client to us, we sort out their utilities, they refer us to kind of like mum and dad or brother and sister, whatever. Sorry, or the family person does, and then they'll refer them back to you because that's where it came from. They'll say, "Oh, go and speak to Craig. He was the guy that referred us, for the utilities chap." And that's your opportunity as a broker to say, "Oh yeah, we'll help you out with the utilities, not a problem. By the way, when did you last review your mortgage?" So it's another opportunity for a broker to lead gen off the back of a referral from utilities.
Excellent. I think I'm glad I asked that question because it was good for you to clarify. And it's obviously going to be on every broker's mind thinking, so they have, and it's not something that I'd even thought about with the referrals back. So it's great to see that referrals are coming back the other way as well, because you always find within a lot of referral agreements, it's very one-sided. Somebody gets referred. There's some commercial transaction between the person who refers and the firm. So obviously there's income that comes back on that, but ultimately it's about the referrals that are coming back on that as well. It's great that you do refer those clients back to the original broker to then look at the income that they can generate from the mortgage opportunity and stuff like that as well. So excellent.
I think probably what's really interesting is I've built Octane on the same principles and foundations of a mortgage advisor role and as a professional person. So the trust and integrity that I hold as a mortgage advisor and a financial professional, I hold those same values within Octane as well, which I think a lot of mortgage brokers really trust and respect that, because it's not, oh, it's just someone selling gas and electric. Oh, you're actually a financial advisor yourself, so you have qualifications and you're professional. Yes, absolutely.
I think that's it. It does go back to the whole thing about trust, Gary. I think the thing is that the broker's going to trust you because like of the way that you are and your values and the way the service that you're providing them. So there is going to be that natural trust there. But I think the thing with it as well is that it's a service that they can offer the clients. But it's more about the long-term relationships as well with these clients, that you're looking after everything in terms of a financial need, because so you're not gonna, because I've seen it happen where they can go on to a compare the market, shall we say, and other switching things are available and whatever you want to call them. But then they go on there, they'll look at the gas and electric, all of a sudden their data is being sold to a protection provider, like, and everything else as well. So it's about cementing that relationship, but it's also protecting your client as well. So referring to you, there's that agreement there. They're not going out to find anybody in the marketplace regarding utilities and everything else. So you're not letting your client be poached, for want of a better word, by any of the provider. Like, because I've seen that happen. I've seen where customers have sort of gone for, I've looked at my home insurance or I looked at my car insurance or whatever. Then all of a sudden, all their data's there, and I know everything about their life insurance. So, well, we've saved you money on your car insurance, we can save you money on your life insurance. And all of a sudden, you're getting a clawback. So, best to keep everything in house. So, it's not only got the benefit of the commercials, the service, the trust, it's protecting yourselves as well, that it's not going to get poached by somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Truly agree with that.
Gary, I'm so conscious of time because clearly you're a very busy person with running Octane and being a mortgage broker as well. Is there anything that we've sort of not talked about? Obviously, we know there's going to be some sort of commercial, so people that are thinking about working with you guys, referring their clients to you. My recommendation would be just to obviously I'll tag you into the podcast anyway. They can contact you through your various social media platforms, because I see you on social media all the time. So you're on every possible port that there is out there, I think. So I don't think anybody will struggle to find you. But is there anything else that we've not talked about that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything, really. I think the only other things, I'll just lightly briefly go over them, is just to let brokers know that there is a revenue share that we do as well with every single client that we transact on. And then also as well with the platform as well, they get full tracking and visibility with the client as well. So if they're ever curious about what stage their client's up to, they can just log into our platform and see, oh, Mr. Jones closed one. Yep, he's signed up for services or appointment pending. So they get a full list. Or if they're curious, like, oh, what clients have we put over this month? It's all in there in a nice rounded place as well. And they can see that if they're multi-broker as well, they can see multiple brokers on a principal level as well.
Right. I think that's a big thing, is about tracking what's being referred, not only from a business point of view. That's great. Like a sole trader, one man band, two man band, you know what you're going to refer it over. Whereas from a large, medium firm, larger firm, it's good to be able to track in one place what's been referred. But Gary, I think it's from a broker's point of view, I see the benefits, client retention, income, and obviously working with somebody that know and trust, and also as well, I say it's about protecting the sales and the client data. So, but Gary, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming on and explaining Octane in a lot more detail than I understood it already. So I think that's given good clarity. Brokers who are wanting to reach out, social media, go on to the Octane website. We'll talk in the Octane website as well, so that they can reach out today. Any other ways they can get hold of you? Just be prefer, or just any way at all?
I'd say LinkedIn is my probably preferred platform of choice. I'm very active on that one.
Yeah. To be fair, I'll give you that. You are very active on LinkedIn, so you do come on my feed quite on a number of occasions, shall we say. So, Gary, thank you again for your time. It is like, I've already sort of bought into the product. I understand how it works, how it benefits myself. If I was a mortgage broker, I understand how it benefits business owners as well. And I'm looking forward to sort of seeing where Octane goes. We're going to get you back on. If you'll come back on, actually, of course, I'm not the belay. I'm just assuming there. But if you come back on 6 months further down into the year, sort of see how things are going. I'm guessing that things will have adapted and tweaked and changed as you go along. So I'm looking forward to get back on and talking a little bit more.
Absolutely.
If you're happy to do that, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. This has been absolutely great. I've really enjoyed it. Definitely as my first podcast. It's been really enjoyable, actually.
Good. Thanks for being a great guest. And as always, I expect my guests to give an honest opinion of themselves. And I think we've built up a good trust with yourself from a listener's point of view. We understand about you, about your business, why it benefits everybody. So, looking forward to see how things go.
Thank you very much, Craig. It's been a pleasure.